really about how do we take today's technology, which is changing rapidly in every facet, and that's really what I'm going to try to emphasize to you as I go through today. How you take today's information, integrate it together to make a difference, not a little difference, a big difference in your production and in your value. And really it comes down to what you're really interested in staying value. And so there's a little bit different approach. I do work with Wayne out of IFCO. Really there's two emphases there. One is to improve the performance of the container seedlings. That's been kind of their history for a long, long time. But the other is to improve the genetics. So we started a new company, International Forest Genetics and Seed Company, and we're off on a fast track there to move to the elite open pollinated and on up to the controlled mass pollinated, where you collect pollen from one tested tree, put it on a tested mother tree, and have a really consistent progeny to plant. The other is I work with my son, as Wayne mentioned, Center for Forestry Research and Applied Management. And this really simply is, we're members of most of the co-ops, directly or indirectly. We get information from them, and there is information, really good stuff coming out each day, but not many people trying to put it together where it's a package that works under operationally applied conditions, and that's really what we're about. If you look across the country, as far as climate effects, that's pretty well mapped out. If you don't have this potential productivity map, you probably ought to get it. It's a good guide for where to buy land, where to operate, and how much difference it makes all the way from the highest productivity areas to the next, to the next, to the next. A big difference. Where you choose to do business has a big impact on how much productivity you're going to get out of it, or what the potential is. Fortunately, you guys set down in a pretty good zone. And in fact, you could almost say climate is not the limiting factor here. Application of technology and genetics in the right fashion is where it's really at. And huge, huge opportunities if we capitalize on what we're given. The other component of the site index is genetic improvement. I could say that genetics could simply be the species, right? If you grew short leaf or long leaf instead of slash or instead of lob on the same soil, same climate, same everything, you wouldn't have the same site index. That's just genetic, just a genetic combination. So it could be species or it could be level of tree improvement. The thing we're changing rapidly, especially with loblolly and with slash, but mostly loblolly, is the level of tree improvement. We've gone from first generation to second generation, third generation to CMP to clones. All of them are out there. All of them will give you a different site index on the same site, and it's not small. So let's kind of look at partition manageable elements, those things that we can manipulate, that you're responsible for being in charge of and doing the very best with, that bring gains in production and value. We'll start looking at the uplands. And I've kind of listed them. The size of the box reflects how big a choice it is, whether you ought to focus on it and think about it, whether it'll make any difference to you, where you should put your attention. Genetic choice. I would say it's probably the biggest element out there. It can be injected into the containers now. That'll cut your cost down about $44 an acre, because you won't have an application cost. It'll already be in the container. But still, $44 an acre, that's still significant dollars. So you have to really think about, know where your tip moth problems are, know what you're getting out of it, and before you go spend that kind of money. The lowlands, a little different story. Same components basically, but you usually get a bigger response from the genetic choice. Except a lot of that is because we have more improvement, tree improvement on the Atlantic Coastal Plain South. Managing stand density, so important all the way through, not in the middle, from the beginning. Initial trees per acre, huge decision for us.